It's me again, Se Angelica Allegri. For today, I will be discussing with you the levels of communication and the basic tenets or maxims of communication. Now, let's tackle the levels of communication. Let us know first what is communication. So for you, what is communication? Communication, it is the process of sending and receiving messages. It's the process of exchanging information, ideas, thoughts, feelings, and emotions through speech, writing, or behavior. So in communication process, a sender, which is the encoder, encodes a message and then using a medium or channel sends it to the receiver, who are the decoder, who decodes the message, and after processing information, it sends back, we call a feedback or reply using a medium or channel. Now, I have a question to you. So you are running a company that sells a perfume to both male and female. How is communication needed? Well, communication is also important within the business to communicate your partners and also to your customers. So effective communication can help to foster a good working relationship between you and your staff, which can in return improve morale and efficiency. Now, how can we achieve a successful communication? Well, we can achieve a successful communication if there is an understanding. Let us know the 5 categories of communication, also called levels or types. Every kind of communication can fall into one of these 5 categories. First category is intrapersonal communication, which means that mental conversation or communication within yourself. So anytime that you communicate within yourself, it is considered as intrapersonal communication. The examples of intrapersonal communication are to-do list, journals, assignment notebooks, calendars, or any kind of reminder to do something later, as well as congratulating yourself on a job well done, or any kind of thinking to yourself. In intrapersonal communication, the individual becomes his or her own sender and receiver, providing feedback to him or herself in an ongoing internal process. So in this level of communication, you are both the person sending and receiving the message, because you play this dual role, and the chances of misinterpretation or misconception are essentially non-existent. The second level of communication is what we call interpersonal communication. This is any kind of communication between two people and only two people. This could be a conversation between you and your best friend, a text message your mom sent you, or a meeting with you and one of your instructor or teacher. Talking with another individual, exchanging text messages or emails, video conferencing, even nonverbal like a shrug of the shoulders or a meaningful glance are all examples of interpersonal communication. So in order for interpersonal communication to be considered as successful, the person receiving the message has to receive and comprehend the message that the sender intended to send. Now, the third level of communication is called small group communication. A small group communication, it is any kind of communication within a group or a team. So the key to small group communication is that everyone is participating in the discussion. This group of communication are between three or more individuals who are interacting each one another. Examples of a small group communication are a family dinner, hang out with your friends, or a football team, a basketball team, such as that. So the next level of communication is the one-to-group communication or the public communication. That one is the best example. This communication is from one person to a group of people. This is what a category any kind of speech falls into. So any speeches you give in a crowd, or a pastor who is giving a sermon or a campaign speech, those are all one-to-group communication. The last category or level of communication is the mass communication. This is communication directed toward a large audience simultaneously, usually electronically. The message can be received through watching in TV or listening in radio, information from the internet, from the newspapers, the PHS, morning announcement, and etc. So the mass communication is so much useful. It's at the heart of our economy, in society, and also in politics. Studios use it to promote their films. Politicians use it to get elected. Business use it to burnish their image, and advocates use it to promote social causes. It's also a field built on ideas and images, persuasion, and information. And in today's world, no policy or product can succeed without a smart message targeted to the right audience in creative and innovative ways. So again, the 5 levels of communication are the interpersonal communication, the small group communication, the one-to-group communication, or the public communication, and the last is the mass communication. So now let us tackle the basic tenets or maxims of communication. But first, let us know what is tenets. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the tenet is a principle, belief, or doctrine generally held to be true. This refers to generally accepted notions on any concept, just like communication. Moreover, dictionary.com defines tenet as any opinion, principle, doctrine, dogma, etc., especially one held as true by members of a profession, group, or movement. So these two definitions share the same ideas. In this topic, we are going to learn and discuss the five tenets of communication. Communication is a must, no matter how casual or formal. In casual terms, we use to communicate with friends or at times to our family. And formally, this is what we use to share ideas and speak out opinions professionally. Even in the field of communication, we got to have principles or what we call tenets. Without this, communication would be hard, and if not worse, or we would have the trouble communicating with anyone. So here are the following tenets of communication according to a software testing class. First one is to ensure that your ideas is relevant. Regardless of how great or small that ideas is, we must make sure that it is related to the topic that is currently discussed. We also must make sure if it is also helping or it may contribute to the discussion. Second tenets or principle of communication is that frame your perspective. In this, it is indeed effective that we go on discussions openly, but it would be useless if you don't have to take on it. In connection to tenet number 1, any baseless idea or discussion would be nonsensical. Third is choose your medium. So by medium, the website means which idea is being communicated. This is also a vital part of communication since you have to know the appropriate medium to share these ideas. So number 4 is think like an anthropologist. So an anthropologist studies past and present societies. So the website suggests you to master the audience or rather understand society by many means, like the topics they discuss, the personalities they value, and how they deal with work. Last is be passionate. So communication is something you must use since it is vital. That is why you must be passionate with the ideas that you share, because no one wants to be interested on a person showing a blank face while discussing with his or her ideas. So the 5 tenets of communication are to ensure that that your idea is relevant, frame your perspective, choose your medium, think like an anthropologist, and be passionate. Basic principles of effective communication or tenets of communication. There might not be any set fundamental for communicating your ideas for it, and things might vary according to person, but if anyone reads through and approaches according to the content above, you will observe a stark difference in the way you are heard. So now let us tackle the maxims of communication. What is the maxim? So a maxim is a brief statement that contains a little piece of wisdom or a general rule of behavior. So Paul Grice's Maxims of Communication in 1975 introduced the cooperative principle, which states that it is necessary for communicators to be conversationally cooperative in order to achieve the function or purpose of communication. The following are the maxims or conventions that one must follow to make sure the conversation would be successful. First one is the maxim of quantity. Maxim of quantity demands the speaker's contribution informative as is required and no more informative than is required. Where one tries to be truthful and does not give information that is false or that is not supported by evidence. Below are the examples of an adherence that obeys the maxim of quantity and one that violates the maxim. So example of obeying. Letter A is, where are you going? Letter B responded, I'm going to the post office. So in the example, B gives comments to A's statement without adding other information. Second is an example of disobeying or violation. Letter A asks a question, are you going to work tomorrow? Letter B says that I am on jury duty, but I'll have to go to the doctor in the evening. I have asked the manager for permission. So in this example, B's reply violates maxim of quantity because B does not give information as required by A, like yes or no. Instead, B gives more information which is not required or expected at all. So a good communicator must provide the most helpful amount of information A speaker must not bombard the listener with too much details, nor must he or she give insufficient information. For instance, when someone is lost and asking for directions, too much information may confuse the listener, but too little information would not get him where he or she is supposed to go. The second maxim is that maxim of quality. This requires the speaker not to say what is believed to be false and for which the speaker lacks adequate evidence, where one tries to be truthful and does not give information that is false or that is not supported by evidence. So below are the examples of adherence that obeys the maxim of quality and that violates the maxim. For example of obeying, letter A asks a question, "Why did you come late last night?" Letter B answer that the car was broken down. So in the example, B gives the truth that his car was broken down so that he came late. An example of disobeying or violation, A asks a question that the Teherans in Turkey isn't teacher, letter B, and London's in America, I suppose. In the example, B's reply is supposed to suggest that A is incorrect and B violates the maxim of quality. So a good communicator must not say something which he or she believes is not true. It means that for both the speaker and the listener to get what they want out of the communication, none of them should lie or deceive each other. Number 3 is maxim of relevance. This requires the speaker to be relevant. Below are the examples of adherence that obeys the maxim of relevance and that one violates the maxim, where one tries to be relevant and says things that are pertinent to the discussion. For example of obeying, in letter A, "Where is my box of chocolates?" Letter B answer that it is in your room. So in the example, B's reply relates to the question, not talking about something else. For example of disobeying or violation, A, "Where's my box of chocolates?" Letter B, I don't know mine either. So in the example, B's answer is not relevant to A's question. B says something else which is not about A's problem at all. In here, a good communicator must make the topic of the conversation relevant to his or her listeners. For instance, when a topic of conversation is all about the summer break and you want to talk about your vacation last year, you must be able to connect to the topics together and not just blurt out remarks about what you did last summer. Number 4, it is the maxim of manner. This requires the speaker to avoid obscurity or of expression and ambiguity. So maxim of manner demands the speaker to be brief and orderly. When one tries to be as clear, as brief, and as orderly as one can in what one says and where one avoids obscurity and ambiguity. So for example of obeying, letter A, "Where was Alfred yesterday?" Letter B answered, "Alfred went to the store and bought some whiskey." In the example, B's answer obeys the manner maxim, be orderly, because she gives a clear explanation where A was. Disobeying or violation, A asked, "Why was he arrested?" And B answered that he stole the money from the bank. So in the example, the statement is ambiguous. It can be interpreted that B didn't steal the money which is stored in the banks. He had gone the bank first and he stole the money in another place. So another interpretation is that he stole that money stored in the bank and he got the money by robbing the bank. So a good communicator must say something in the clearest and most orderly manner. A speaker must not use vague or ambiguous language so as to avoid confusion. So one must not talk in circles to be understood clearly. So these maxims of conversation can, however, be violated or flouted. So violating a maxim means that the other person does not know you are not following the conversational maxims. You can violate hit maxim of quality to tell white lies, for instance, to keep the peace. So flouting a maxim, on the other hand, means that you are breaking the rule or maxim in an obvious manner, usually to emphasize an important point or add an extra layer of meaning to the statement. Grace labeled this extra meaning as implicator. To understand an implicator, a listener must be able to make accurate inferences. So according to Levinson, 1983, stated that Grice's maxims above specify what participants must do in order to convince in a maximally efficient, rational, cooperative way, which is the participant should speak sincerely, relevantly, and clearly while providing sufficient information. That's all for today. Thank you and God bless.